So there's been a lot of the rise in what the media and what we see on social media called as the rise of anti-Asian hate.
Media has a big impact to it, and if you're always talking about the virus coming from China, coming from Asia, then the education you're giving to everyone is that they are the problem. And so this is even the reason why we're motivated to create a show like this. It's just so that you can see that we're not all crazy people, you know, we're not all bat eaters, we're all just as normal as you, right? Hi everybody and welcome back to the Rise and Shine Show. It's Lynn Padetti here.
Jennifer 𝐂𝐲.
Jackie Ashley.
And
Dai.
we're here to help you F your way to success. Now, in today's episode, we invited Dai Lee here because we are touching on a very, serious topic that is going around at the moment around the world, which is on the topic of racism. And so we thought Dai Lee is the best person to talk about that, especially in her position in politics. And she's also our co-founder at Dawn Media Production, which is a company producing Rise and Shine Show here. So welcome, Dai.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for me joining you guys. Thanks for joining me. Look, it's great to be able to come back again here to talk with you guys about racism. And I think it's a really timely discussion around racism. I don't know if you guys saw this week the bashing of an elderly woman in San Francisco.
Yes. And there's a lot of bashing lately.
So there's been a lot of the rise in what the media and what we see on social media called as the rise of anti-Asian hate. But I think that in particular in the last 48 hours, there's been this hashtag called Stop Asian Hate, as well as there's a lot of anger out there in the world that's saying that, you know, there's this attack on Asians around the world. And I felt that we should talk about that issue. First of all, one of the things that kind of people miss or wasn't covered in this bashing in San Francisco is this elderly woman who is 75 years of age. And apparently this man, I think he's was consumed with drugs, and he ran down the street in San Francisco and bashed two Asian people. The first was a gentleman, and by the time he got to this lady who was with her walking stick, he bashed her, and she was very black and blue in her face. But guess what? She fought back with her stick, and she hit him.
I'll be so proud of my grandma if she did that.
Absolutely. You know, she hit him. Yes, she was bruised. Yes, she was shaken. But I think, from my perspective, we need to look at how can we turn that story around to make it an empowering story. And yes, she is a victim, but she was also a courageous woman. And she fought, and I believe, according to the media reports, that gentleman, or not gentleman, that guy that hit her got taken away on a stretcher.
Yes.
So, you know, for me, I would, you know, what your thoughts are around how do we address, or how do we talk about those kind of situations when you're targeted based on the color of your skin, your cultural backgrounds, or whatever it is. There is bound to be people who's going to target you for a reason that they don't like you.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I grew up, you know, I'm Vietnamese, moved over here, and I have come across situations where there were racism, but it wasn't, I didn't look at, I wasn't like I judge them as every Western person is a racist person, or that's it, I'm gonna go and fight every other white person out there. I just saw it as this individual had a problem with Asian, and I'm gonna give it back to her. I'll be like, who do you think you're talking about? And then, you know, and as soon as you step up, they actually just back down. And the reason why a lot of bullies or racism happen is kind of like no one kind of speak up or stood up to them. So they kind of get away with their behavior, and then they happen to mix with the wrong person, and then hopefully after, you know, you standing up to them, they stop doing what they're doing. But that was an isolated situation. I didn't, definitely from young, I knew to just see it as this person wasn't a good person and did that. And so then I lived my rest of my life just always embracing diversity and still really good to other nationalities.
Look, I think that that is how I have view my life and have viewed the world as well, is that sometimes, a lot of the times, there is racism. There is also what we call the hidden racism within institutions, whereby if you were trying to break through that leadership ladder or corporate success ladder, you will be stopped, because within that system, within that institutions, there is that unconscious bias. And so if you're a person of non-English speaking backgrounds, Asian backgrounds, or coloured person, or person with disability, or person with different sexual orientation, you're bound to find resistance, right?
And here's the thing, the media has a big impact to it. And if you're always talking about the virus coming from China, coming from Asia, then the education you're giving to everyone is that they are the problem. And so this is even the reason why we're motivated to create a show like this, is just so that you can see that we're not all crazy people, we're not all bat eaters, we're all just as normal as you, right? We're just really...
And we're not even sure that's actually coming from the bat anyway, right?
It's education.
Yeah, but the thing is, with all the hype and all the media, and this is quite dangerous, because Dai, you could definitely share this, because Dai's from a media background as well. So the media does have some sort of influence, or the way that they position and a perspective can really swing people, and certain words are embedded in there just to actually motivate and aggravate people, and sometimes they want a response. So this is quite dangerous.
And then this is a cycle. So now it's like, well, they hate Asian. Now Asians coming out
hating or
whatever.
Yeah.
And so now social media, everything is going around. It's like a war zone online.
It is. That's right. It's going to be a war zone online because of the different groups who are. If you're aligned with the racism to say, oh look, that person hates me because I'm Asian or black, whatever, you start to divide, I believe, the world in a way whereby it's them and us. And that's always been the case, in the political arena. That's what governments sort of do. They try to divide, so they divide people, and that's, divide and conquer, as the saying goes. And I think that how, it shows like this, if we can actually have a conversation around how do we address racism? How do we address when somebody, target us or call us names or really denigrate us? It's so funny. There's this on social media, and I wrote a post about this recently. On social media, I get attacked a lot. They're what I call trolls, calling me names, calling me go back to your country where you don't belong in Australia. Calling me.
How do you feel when you're seeing that?
Yeah. And what do you say?
Yeah, so initially it was very hard, because you think, oh my God, like how can you pick on me as a being an Asian woman in particular, like calling me somebody called me a nong.
What's a nong? What is a nong?
Yeah. So
what is a nong?
So basically, when you find the meaning of nong, in the Western society, nong means you're stupid, apparently. But if you actually look in the dictionary, it's white peasant trash. Chinese peasant trash. So it's about denigrating a person because they are of Asian heritage, right? So if you're a white person calling somebody that, it's really talking about you are an Asian trash, right? You're an Asian trash. Now they're trying to justify that that nong means stupidity. Well, it could mean if you're talking to a white person, but if you're talking to an Asian person, then that has more
different meaning.
Has a different meaning. So therefore, how you say things to who you say it to, really you have to be watching what you say and be mindful of it. Not to be politically correct and not say that you hate that person or you dislike that person, but say in such a way, like in a respectful way, disagreeing with them in a respectful way, calling out their behavior. And so I think that how do you put up, or how do you tolerate that, is you think, at first it's kind of think, oh my God, do I want to even still be in this political arena, because there are not many of me around or look like me around, and it feels, you're a woman in particular. We have a heart and we feel more, and you feel.
But that's also why you should be in that area. And I think it's not just. I think for us, as also you in particularly being an Asian woman in the political arena, right? It's about expressing. It's about, but also choosing, I think, the words that we choose to come back,
Yeah.
right? With,
So what did you do
you know,
to come back
Well,
with that?
for me, the accumulation of, like, if you call me once, I can put up with it.
Are these all just
twice.
online trolls or people that you might know as
Oh,
well?
no,
or
no, people
Do
trolls
you know
as well.
them?
And I
Okay.
know them as
Oh,
well.
so you know them
I
as
know
well.
of them
Right.
in the political
Okay,
arena. I'm
right,
giving you an
yeah.
example here of what
Yeah.
happens when people call you names
Yeah.
or denigrate you
Yeah.
and using your race as a
As a-
denigration.
yeah.
So I'm lucky in that I have been in the political arena for a decade now, so I have what I call thicker skin.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
can
you kinda
you can
go-
withstand that.
Yeah.
However, it still doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know, it's still like you think, well, can't we just have a disagreement in a respectful way? What I did was a colleague of mine then stood up and made this comment in council to say, look, how can you, for somebody like Dai, who's fighting for diversity, who's really championing for more women into politics, how could you denigrate, and calling her, because that means you're racist.
Yeah.
So you need somebody to call them out as
Yeah.
racist,
Yeah.
and you do need to call that out. But then how do you then turn it around and say, like that old woman, look, we need to acknowledge that she was courageous enough to hit back at that
fight
racist
back for
idiot.
her.
And
Like
also,
that.
this guy has chosen to pick someone who's vulnerable. She's
Yeah.
old, she can't fight
Yeah,
back.
she can't.
So this guy
Yeah.
has problem, you
Yeah.
know. Like, I mean, look, I know that bullies, they're always going to pick on people that can't
Vulnerable.
fight
But
back.
they tend to pick on what they call the weaker.
And look,
the weaker,
and when it
right?
comes to racism, it still comes down to bullying. People are bullying others that they can pick on, and it
Yeah.
happens from primary school.
Yep.
Kids are quite racist sometimes because they don't know, they don't understand,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" Or if my kids see someone that looks different, they're like, "Oh my God, he looks like that," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Put it down," you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But it's because they don't understand, lack of education.
They're not
And I think,
educated.
yeah, and so these adults just never got educated, and we need to just, represent more, be on, and it's the media that can make a difference. If they just never show great shows about Asians and great shows about amazing things, the African American has really fought through and now has represent in politics, in acting, in so much ways.
And talking about Black Americans or people of African descent, they are still suffering from racism.
Yeah.
And it can
You
never.
think
It
now,
never
but
ends.
even now more so. There's more.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I think that how do we overcome that is to, from my perspective, is to actually shine the light on courageous actions, on standing up and being bold to speak out and being bold to call out,
Yeah, on their
right? On their
behaviour.
behavior.
And also
And
just
the
share
words.
more stories representing in every way online.
I just find that sometimes people who are naturally racist, and most of the time is because they're ignorant, and sometimes we kind of don't like something because we don't understand enough
yes.
about it, right? So they would use a reason. They'll borrow a reason from the media, for example. They might borrow from any political figure, anybody like in public. I'm not going to mention anything, but in public. And then they'll say that they make it correct that they action this. I'm doing this because I'm with this crowd. I'm doing this because I stand for something. No, you stand for nothing. When you attack the old, the vulnerable, women with walking stick, old men, and there are men that's like, I've seen people that die from all these attacks and stuff like that, and it's uncalled for. You're just a coward. And that's all. You're not standing for anything. You're not, you know what I mean? They think they're standing for something, but the point is they're hiding behind someone to do and to create I can't think of the word right now, but a coward act.
I mean, and I think so. For me, I think I would love to see more that story of that wonderful 75-year-old. I know she was shocked. I know that I believe it was reported that her children were like aghast and saying that she was still in shock. But I think if we're going to focus so much on the shock and not focus on her courageous act, then it will take. There's a moment there where we can shine the light and lift her up. To say, look at what this woman did.
And so you're saying, I've seen where they did highlight that, but maybe you're saying it's not enough. It's like 10% that, 90%, okay, what are we going to do to
The
fight
focus
back
was
and
different.
racism?
What the focus should be was the courageous action and what it represented, rather than the actual act itself. And I think that's why right now it's really important, and even us as a company that we create here, is to be able to shine the light and have that courageous conversation like we're doing, and that's like Lynn was saying, having having this moment where we can actually talk about topics like this and to educate people, but also just bring that awareness.
Yeah.
And racism happens everywhere. Like I would confess, like even my Asian family, some of them make kind of
fun of each
remarks
other
about other nationalities.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm like, that's so racist, Mum. But they're like, so what? We get to say it.
Yeah.
Of course but they're not the type that would go out and pick the vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
But racism does happen in
all levels.
in all levels.
In all levels.
And like I said, even kids.
Yeah. You know, and I think we need to lead the way. We need to have the conversations of that, to respect differences, the color of a person's skin or their mobility, whether they can able to move or not, or their sexual orientation. It shouldn't define them as a human being. And I'd love to hear what people who will be watching Rise and Shine and watching this show think about. I think racism, because it's still such a huge, a big
topic.
It's a very sensitive topic as well. But the question I want to ask you, Dai, is where is the fine line? Okay, so say for example, someone this is a woman, out of a reaction, she became really courageous. But where is that fine line between being courageous and like fight back, and when should you actually not fight back? Because that could be quite, well,
I would always be the one that fights back. I don't think I can control my instinct. It's like, don't pick on me, I'm like that. And that's the way I see it, is if you don't step up and be that courageous person, that person will never learn a lesson and continue to do what they do. But I think as a human race and as parents, what we can do is teach from young. So my kids know that I have friends that are from Africa, from Persian, from Iran, from everything, all different close friends that are all different nationalities. When we get together for a party, I love it. I'm like, oh my God, like the whole world's here. The whole world's here.
It's United Nations.
And also to learn about their cultures, what do they do different, and make it fun, because I think it's through education and it's through setting an example with our own children that we can actually make a difference, right? And talking to friends about that, talking to people we don't even know, because sometimes the people don't know. If we allow ourselves to share some information, they're like, having a different perspective, that's what it is, right? It allows them to have that too.
But is there a point whereby you don't stand up? I don't know. I think that I think that if you are to stand up and believe in what you're doing, in the cause, or believe in the right of somebody, I think it's worth standing up. And even, I'm not suggesting, anybody out there to say stand up and fight against who's a racist, and if they're stronger, and if there's a bunch of them, then it can be dangerous. But I think to show that you have that courage to fight that. But look, when you're surrounded by a group of people who are going to attack you, you might be kind of helpless and you can't do anything. I can't, I've never been in that situation, but in the one-on-one where people attack you and calling you names or whatever, verbally, isn't there saying sticks and stones may break bones, but words can never hurt me. That is great, but sometimes words do hurt. Right.
Look, at the end of the day, you're going to get online trolls, and most of the time, ignore them. Don't bother. Don't fight back and make your day miserable about it.
The trolls, yes, ignore. But the people who are, I would say, are the educated, the ones that are seen as community the community leaders who are who are not like
supposedly.
They're not trolls. They're not trolls.
Well, that's when you need to call them out.
You need to call them.
You need to call them out. But be professional. Lead with love, I think.
But here's the question, Dai. Do they know? So some of them, they may not realize that what they're saying is of that intention, right?
I'm
pretty sure she's trying to say they're clearly racist.
More of them are actually know intentionally that they're saying that. The effects of that.
If you're going to say get back to your country, that is
that's it. If they say to F off back to your country.
So they're saying particular words, those kind of words. Of course.
They're just using what's easy for them.
I got this letter, and I should have brought it, but I got this letter wrote, and I think there's quite a few Asian councillors were given this or sent this letter to, and it was like you read it and they goes, you F off from here, you're the one that caused the coronavirus.
Oh my God.
I
would have laughed
I saw that letter and I was laughing.
I would think that is so dumb.
And I read it and I thought, now you can either make that to mean you're a victim and you think, oh my God, but I thought, you are such an ignorant person,
Yeah.
whoever you are. I'm not going to let your words, but it hurt
But
me.
it does hurt.
It does hurt, right?
Because
it does
what they
hurt.
say, yes.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, well, I'm actually more Australian than you. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it was like, but then when you saw the typing, because it's all in capital, and I'm thinking, well, you must not be well, you know.
Yeah, because they're really coming across very aggressive. Like,
Aggressive.
making sure you understand this.
Yeah.
Do you hear?
All right, ladies. Well, we can't continue talking about this. Love to hear what you think about this topic. We really, at the end of the day, have the best intention. We just want this world to be a peaceful place. And how do we stop this cycle of hating each other? And I think it starts with love and
compassion.
and courage as well. So
And acknowledging courageous acts.
Yes.
And let's
and
look
stick
at
to the positive side of things.
Yeah.
And have conversations around them.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you love more videos like this, check it out. And thank you so much, Dai, for coming on today. Well, that's it, guys. It's Lynn here.
Jennifer 𝐂𝐲.
And we'll see you next time.
See you.